Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning.
Welcome. Guys, so today we're on building block 6. So if you've been with me since January, good job. We only have 2 more after this. You're getting there. We're going to have it all done by August, right? Just in time for school. You guys can take a look at this. I just question, and maybe Sheena is probably better to answer this, but how many of you guys had to pause all building block work? I heard from a few that were super excited, like January, February, and then their program shut down, and they have, other than following this, have not really had a chance to get back into looking at quality. Is that kind of where you guys are too?
Hey.
No. All right. Well,
from subgrantees, I haven't heard too much about pausing with their professional development, but I know that, unfortunately, day by day, week by week, things come up. So we'd love to revisit again, right? This is just our first round. So
yep.
Definitely, especially with a lot of new subgrantees coming on board, that we'll be seeing a lot of you next year, I hope, right?
I hope. Good morning, Reba.
Good morning.
How are you? We're just getting started, so you're fine.
Oh, good. I am
Oh my
pretty
gosh,
good
are you
today.
back in your office?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
We are not yet. You can tell. All right. So we're talking about building block 6, which is organizational and leadership management. And I was telling Sheena that this is probably not our super fun building block, right? It's not youth voice or behavior or intentional program design, but this is one of those things that is 100% necessary, and it is the only way in which you get all the fun things, right? So we're going to work on this block today. And I know most of you, I believe, have joined us before, but I will go through all of it just in case this is your first time. So during this presentation, we're recording this, and it will be available either tomorrow or by Monday, usually latest, to watch, and it's going to be available on our website. You can go there and watch this again if you miss anything. The slide deck will also be available there. And you can find all of our webinars there that we've done this year. So if you're looking for any of the other 5 building blocks, they're there. If you're looking for behavior or brain science, they're there as well. And you can check those out at any time. They are totally free. If you're having trouble with your audio, you're welcome to call in on your phone instead. You're also welcome to ask questions at any time. You can unmute, ask me questions. If you feel more comfortable in the chat box, that's great. You can go into your chat box, and I will try to monitor that as best as I can. We are on Zoom today, so if the webinar is hacked or any inappropriate language or images appear, we'll do everything in our power to lock it down, and if not, we will cancel and try again another day. Okay? I'm not going to be using polls. We'll have polls. You can put them in the chat or say them out loud. That's just to keep you awake while we're here, right? So what are we looking at today? We'll go through the quality standard goals, our building block overview, we'll look at our standard definition, and we'll look at our book, and we'll go through all the indicators, just like we do every month, right? We'll look at that resource reminder. And so why are you here today? You're looking for information for colleagues or employees, you're gathering information for yourself, or you started summer programming and you just need a break. So you thought you'd join in with me. Put your answers in the chat box, or just let me know if you're feeling anything. Oh, come on, guys. All right. That's fair. See one personal, some other personals. All right. Sheena, that is also fair. That's why I threw that one in there today. I was like, some y'all are probably done already with summer. But as suspected, most of you are A or B or some combination of both. So if you're looking at the quality standards, why did we write these? Why are they here? In Idaho, we didn't have a definition of what quality out of school time programming looked like. And so that was one of ION's missions, was to help define that for everyone, right? We should be serving as a foundation for decisions and practices in all settings and programs. So whether you are a permanently funded long-term program, a one-time program, sports, whatever it is, you should be able to use these. Establish a set of standards that support the professionalization of the youth development field. I say this every month, and I will repeat this every month. You guys are professionals. You are not babysitters, right? You are professionals in your field, and you should be treated and respected as such, and these quality standards will help you do so.
All right.
Provide an ongoing framework to advance the field and increase the quality of programs being offered. Sorry. Oh, hello, I have program updates. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So today, the building block we are working on is kind of that title, right? The building block we're working on is organizational and leadership management. Underneath that is the standard, which is your definition, excuse me, of the building block. And then we have the indicators, which are the actions, the individual actions you can take to meet those standards. So if you're following along in your handy dandy notebook, right? We are on page 16 and 17 of that book. You can flip that open. And so on the left, you'll see the title, which is that building block, organizational and leadership management. And underneath that is the indicators. And then on the right-hand side is the quick self-assessment. This is to give you a good gauge of where you're at in this particular building block, right? Whether you are in the not yet phase, the trying it, or you're doing it. And this is a great thing that you can share back out to your staff, or your staff can even do with you. It's pretty easy for parents to understand, funders to understand. This is a great way to be like, look at all the things we're doing great. These are the areas we need help with or we're working on. If you would like your own copy of this book, you can go to our website, idahoutofschool.org, click on the quality heading. It should be a tab at the top that says quality. Underneath that is building blocks, and you can download this as often as you like. It's totally free. If you do need a physical copy, let myself or Anna know, and we will do our best to get you a physical copy, but you are welcome to print this at any time. I'm going to stop and pause, take a breath, take a drink. Any questions? All right, cool. Let's get it. Oh, poll first. What is your role currently in the organization? Are you designing youth programs, delivering youth programs? You're both delivering and designing youth programs, or it's hot outside, so you're just here for fun? I don't know why anyone would be here for fun. Just kidding. You can put your answers in the chat box. This just gives me a second to take a drink. Reba. How hot is it where you are, Reba? It's like 100, it's like 90. What?
It's supposed to be about 90, 91 here today.
Yeah, we're in the high 90s here as well. Everyone's just hot. It's like summer turned on, first day of summer, and the state got hot, I believe, for everyone. That's fair. I'll allow it. Long as you're here. Lindsay, are you not sure if you deliver?
I don't. Do I know what I do? I feel like my staff is, they just need support. They're really good about, delivering and designing, being creative. So I just really like to see myself as supporting them.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that. and let us know if we can support you in supporting them.
Yes,
See
well,
them.
yeah, it's time, it's really interesting time to be trying to think about programs because we don't know what's going to happen in the fall.
It is, and we've heard that loud and clear, and we're working on some supports for that.
Yes, yes.
So please let
Sorry.
us know what you need, so I'm building the right things.
Yes, yes, awesome. Thank
We're gonna
you.
work on it. I promise. So what is organizational leadership and management? You're like, what is that? So the standard, so this is the definition, right? The building block is the organizational leadership and management. The standard is defined as quality programs are effective organizations with a coherent mission, well-developed systems, and sound fiscal management to support and enhance quality programming and activities for all participants. Right? This is the piece that allows you to do all the other fun pieces, right? You can't support youth and families if you don't have a sound base, right?
Mm.
The house comes down if it doesn't have a foundation. So this is your foundational piece. So indicator A, so right now we're on the left-hand side, we see all those nice indicators, is that the organization has a clear mission statement and philosophy that is widely understood and shared by staff, youth, families, and the community, and is aligned with the goals of the broader organization when applicable. If you've been with me since January, you've heard this before, right? Hope so. If you have not, go back to step one, right? Your mission statement is critical to all other functions of your programming. We talk about it a lot in building block 1, intentional program design. It is the first step there as well, right? You have to have a mission. And I forgot what I was gonna say. We'll keep going. Good program leadership starts with the end in mind, right? You have to, this is why, right? You have to have your mission and goals, or you don't know where your program is going. And you can't lead a blind program. So you have to start back at the beginning. And where it says aligned with the goals of the broader organization when applicable. If you are in a large organization like the Y or Boys and Girls Club, right, you probably have an organizational mission. I would strongly encourage that each site has their own mission and goals that align with that, but every program site is different. In your program goals and your program mission might need to be tweaked from your organizational one. As long as they align, right? So you know you're meeting those things. I would encourage that every site has a subset. Hey, James.
Hello, how are you?
Cute mask. So your organizational mission is a statement should be expression of your organization's desire and your intent, right? Where are you going? You need to use your mission statement to communicate your drive and your direction, right, to all of your employees, your customers, your families and youth, and any other stakeholders in your community. That's what your mission and goals are for. It's your sense of identity, and that's another reason why it's really important. We talked about that. Here's why. Here's this diagram. This comes up in your intentional program design, but I wanted to stick it here just so you can kind of visually see why this is important, right? So there's your desired outcomes at the beginning, because you can't find your actual outcomes if you don't know where your desired outcomes are, right? If you create your mission and your goals, then your activity design becomes way easier, and then your outcomes become easier because you know where you're going. What does that look like? Oh, I'm so ahead of myself today. Do you guys know your organizational mission? And for those of you who started with me in January, if you are still saying you don't know, I'm disappointed. So if you can put that answer in the chat for me real quick. Awesome. Good job, Melissa. Sheena, you need to quiz your staff. Have staff quiz day. All right, that's fair. Anyone else? How many of you are currently going, and trying to think about it? Anna, I hope you know our mission. All right, I'll give you guys a break. Go check your manuals, learn your missions. All right. So your goals, which fall under your mission, are your purpose. It's your why, right? It's what you are doing actively to meet your mission. Program goals are not your activity goals, right? Those are separate things. What does that look like? If you guys are building bikes, right? Your program goal is not to build X number of bikes, right? But why are you having kids build bikes? So your goal would be something like to provide activities that allow at-risk youth to be successful in building social and behavioral skills. And you're building bikes to do that. Does that make sense, the difference between an activity goal and a program goal? Okay. Your goal objectives are how you reach a goal, right? So that's measuring your success. Did you do the goal the way you said you were going to do the goal? So this program goal comes from a tribal youth program. And so their goal, as part of their mission, is to introduce youth to opportunities such as forestry and wildlife and parks and fishery management, right? So their objectives, the way they're going to do that is they're going to work with different agencies and they're going to educate their kids on natural resources. So as you can see, if you build in your mission and your goals, activities become a lot easier, right? Because now I can go, oh, well, I need an activity on, you know, different waterways, or I can do an activity on fisheries, or have a guest speaker come in from the Forest Service, and they slot right in. Very, very important. Critical. You have to go back, you have to write a mission and goals. It'll make your work a lot easier in the end. It's hard up front, a lot easier in the end, right? Indicators B and H. We're gonna move on a little bit. So your program has written policies, procedures, systems, and documentation in place to ensure a safe, appropriate environment that is responsive for day-to-day needs and challenges as well as emergencies. Right? This is a whole lot of policy writing. Again, a lot of upfront work will make your daily life a lot easier. And I can help you with this if you need help, right? And I'm going to throw H in here. It's the last one, but program policies and procedures are clear and available to participants, families, and the community for review. These should not be a secret. Right? It can be posted at your site, posted on your website. It can be in multiple languages if you need it, right? They should appear in your parent handbook. And your parent handbook is that thing that explains all these policies and procedures that your families need to know, right? Family-friendly language, not a lot of jargon. It's all written out, easy to understand. If you need more information on parent handbooks, go back a session, right? Go look at Building Block 5, Community, School, and Family Engagement. We talk more about how to do this. You also need a program behavior plan and a continuum of consequences that your staff agrees to and that children and parents are taught and reminded of frequently. If you don't know what that is, please let me know. We will work on this as well. You can also find templates for this at the idahooutofschool.org website. And if you look under events under our Behavior Management Institute, even if you did not attend the Behavior Management Institute, there's some templates on behavior plans and continuums of consequence. And again, call me. We'll work on this. It's super important. Are there any I don't have a ton of time to go into behavior plans or behavior matrices and continuums of consequences, but any general questions here? I'll pause. Okay. You need an employee handbook. Look at all the handbooks. But you're going to have all your policies written. Makes your life easier, I promise. And you might have to create one for different types of employees if you change throughout the year, right? If you have summer programming with a different set of employees than you would normally have during your school day or after school day programming, you might need separate handbooks to make sure that you're covering all the policies. Or if you have STEM employees that are very different than your arts employees, again, have those separate handbooks, make sure you're covering the right information for every set of employees. I like this advice, that's why I put it here. Write the handbook with the same attitude you want employees to adopt when they work for your program. Right? Your handbook should be proactive, it should be positive, it should be encouraging. And just like your parent handbook, it needs to be straightforward, readable language that your employees understand. Okay. Your program has to create, this is kind of one of those non-negotiable deals that you have a safety and security plan for your staff to follow, right? What happens if your employees are injured? What happens if you have families or children that are injured? What do they do if they get to the program and it's been broken into and they have kids coming in 10 minutes? What's the plan? What happens if an employee comes to work and they are under the influence, or a parent comes and they're under the influence? There's an unauthorized pickup by a parent. What's the plan, right? In the event of any severe emergencies, weather, flooding, fires, there has to be a plan. And I would walk through as many scenarios as you can in your head and get them down on paper. What responsibilities for every team member? Who calls 911? Who stays with the parent? Who's, right? Boom, boom, boom. What happens if you've assigned something to someone and that person isn't there, or they're the one that's injured? Then what? Critical in every plan, every emergency plan, what do you do with a child with disabilities? And what do you do for that child's disabilities? If you have a kid that melts down at the sound of a fire alarm and can no longer function to get out of the building on their own, please note that you have that child and you will need to have someone assigned to that child to make sure they get out of the building, right? If there's a wheelchair and your back door exit goes to an unpaved area, how is that child getting out? So if you have a program safety and security plan, please review it and make sure that you are including children with disabilities. Your evacuation plan should also be in your parent handbook. So go back, revise that, and you need a backup evacuation place if your evacuation place is under the same emergency as your building, right? Have all of the above. I'm gonna stop. This one's kind of a heavy one, and we'll go into more of this with youth safety and wellness and some other places. Any questions about safety and wellness plans?
For the end of my home insurance, and I think it expires today.
No. Okay. We kind of said this in the employee section, but all your policy manuals, your handbooks need to have your values and expectations, right, that you want for your program. This is, again, another opportunity to share your mission and outline your expectations on how people should behave and communicate in your program. Put it in writing. Oh, James, did you have a question? Do you want your hands raised? All right. I'm gonna, oh.
No, I don't have a question.
Your hand is just raised like, woo. I'll lower your hand. There. Indicator C. Program has a strategic plan that's created from youth, staff, family, and community that supports their mission. Strategic plans are really important. They are not fun to write. I don't think anyone's gone into strategic planning like, yes, strategic plan, but you need one. And if your organization has one and you've never seen it, ask to see it. The strategic plan is what aligns all your stakeholders, which are those people we just talked about, right? Your youth, your staff, your family, and your community. They align those things to your program's priorities. That's why they're so important. Strategic plans are not static documents. This is not a set it and forget it situation. Strategic plans are meant to change as circumstances arise. They should be reviewed every year and they should be rewritten every 3 to 5 years, right? If you've seen your strategic plan and then you've never looked at it again, it's a good chance you're not following your strategic plan, right? You have to review it pretty frequently and make sure that you're still doing the things you think you should be doing and want to be doing. So your strategic plan, what it's for, right, is to outline your future plans and show how your program can, well, where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there, right? It's your mission and goals on steroids. Your mission and goals are part of this strategic plan, but this is telling you how you're going to do all of these things. So when you're thinking about your strategic plan, if you haven't written one, or you're in the process of looking at it, you kind of want to ask yourself a few things, really kind of easy things to think about. If you break it down, where is your program now, right? This addresses the foundation, right? What we're talking about today. And it's going to be the outline of your future sections, right? So this is where your mission statement lives, your core values, your guiding principles, your goals, right? Where are you right now? Then you're going to look at where you're going, right? So this is your goals for the future of the program. And then you assess whether your current trajectory is the future you want. Are you serving the kids you need to serve, that you want to serve? Are you doing the programs and activities that you want to do? If no, this is where you write in where you want to go. If yes, and you're on your plan and you're doing great, even better, you've reviewed it and you're on target, right? So this is where your vision statement about what you want to look like in the future goes, what needs to change, what's happening internally and externally. If your community has changed, right, then you may have to adapt your strategic plan. If they've built a new school a block from your center and you're going to have an influx of kids, that's an external change that you now have to plan for, right? If internally you know that your staff's turning over or you've lost grant funding or something has happened, then you may need to change your strategic plan, right? Look at all the factors you need for success. That goes here in your strategic plan. So how does your program get there? This will outline all the routes that you can take to achieve your vision and match your strengths with opportunities, right? This is where those measurable and very specific goals go. Your objectives, an execution plan that identifies who manages and monitors the plan, right? You have to assign pieces to people so that they know what they're doing, okay? If you have this fantastic plan and you don't put anyone in charge of it, I guarantee no one's gonna look at the plan, okay? And then you need an evaluation plan that shows that you did all these things, right? And that you know, it's not always the fun part, but you have to know the setbacks, the things that happened that made it so that your goal wasn't possible. That way you can either reevaluate your goal, change what you want to do, or you're going to do that goal again and try it again. I can't tell you how many times I think Anna and I have written COVID, changed our plan on some grant reports, right? We didn't do the thing that we said we were going to do because we had a setback, and that's okay. We're reevaluating those goals and we're going to do our best. And that's fine. Just lets people know what happened. Don't be afraid of it. I'm gonna stop for a second. Pivot, yes, pivot. Anna says pivot. Yes, we're all Ross Geller. Pivot. So indicator D, program has solid oversight, a clearly defined decision-making process, set policies that are understood and followed, and competent supervision of staff and volunteers. So we've talked pretty heavily about policies and what to do with them. So I'm going to talk about decision-making for a minute. This is, you could probably find it for you if I need to go back to the study, but decisions made at programs without a strategic plan are twice as likely to have poor results, right? If you don't know where you're going, you are rudderless or blind, then you're making decisions not based on your mission or your goals, right? This is a hard one for, I think, some programs, but if your decisions are all initiated and then approved by the same person, meaning you don't have buy-in from your staff or others, you're not probably generating the best results. And I'm not saying 100% of decisions 100% of the time. Sometimes decisions just have to be made, and that's fair. But if a lot of your decisions are being made and decided by one person, you may not be making the best decisions that you can be making, right? There's value in good discussion. Again, not 100% of the time. Sometimes things just have to happen, but try to include as many people when you can in decision making. Decision-making success comes when you have clarity about who's responsible for implementing the decision, and even better, if that person who's responsible helped in the decision-making process. If they've bought in, they're way more likely to do the thing you've decided on. There needs to be transparent approval criteria for decisions being made. These should go in your employee and procedures handbooks, right? Who's identifying the problems should be open to everyone. You've gathered data, you've looked at evidence, right? And then you've looked at as many alternatives that you can, right? What are all the paths that we could take in making this decision? And then we decide, right? And I would also include who's responsible, who's doing the decision making. Put that in your procedures. It's transparent. People know that if they come to you with XYZ problem, that they've identified the problem, right? And they may have started gathering data, but you're going to gather data. If there's someone that needs to be above you that gathers data and evidence, great. And then, you know, they've brought to you alternatives. You may have provided alternatives, and then you're going to get back with them and discuss with them depending on what the decision needs to be made from, right? That process is written out. I also highly recommend a decision process for your youth. I think I've said that in the behavior class before, but what kids do in a disagreement should be written out. Just FYI. Also in your parent manual. Put it everywhere. Indicator E, and we'll get to this, failure is always an option, which is one of my favorite quotes from Adam Savage. But your organization respects and supports the culture and identity of youth workers and values them as individuals and professionals. Sorry, I was reading your statement, Sheena. Almost all out of school time programming hires youth. Not everyone, but a vast majority hire youth workers either in high school or young college workers. And they are just as equally needing to be respected as anyone else working with youth. They're not babysitters. If you're not a babysitter, they're not a babysitter. They are in charge of youth's lives and should be respected and treated as such, right? They should have a seat at the table as well as a voice in the conversation. If you're making decisions for the program that impact your youth workers, then the youth workers should have a voice in that impact, right? Got to make success achievable. You cannot set them up, right? Provide training, provide clear expectations. They should be getting employee manuals as well, even if they're part-time, even if they come once a week, right? Pay attention to when they are successful, right? If you took my brain training, we know that brains are not fully developed until the age of 25. And yet we have a lot of 16 to 20-ish year olds working in with youth. They really, really like incentives and being told that they're successful. So incentivize with things they find meaningful, right? If you're handing out coffee gift cards and they don't drink coffee, they're going to think you're not listening to them, right? So find ways to incentivize them that are meaningful to them, remind them that they are successful, remind them that they are professionals, and then listen to them, okay? However, nothing is 100% of the time. Failure is always an option. So you have to plan for it, just like we said in the safety manual, right? Stuff will happen. It doesn't have to be scary, right? This seems like really obvious advice, that you don't yell at your youth staff. And yet, sometimes it's a temptation to treat teenage staff like they're your teenagers at home. And they're not. They are professionals that work for you, right? So we don't yell and we don't discipline in public. We certainly don't discipline in front of the staff or the youth that they are working with. I hope that's an obvious thing, but I'm going to state it just in case it's not. Whenever possible, you should be learning before punishment. Right? Looks like you're really struggling with this kid. Parent complained. Let's figure out how to do that better. We're going to refer to our behavior matrix, or we're going to look at our staff manual, and we're going to figure out how we can do this better. I want you to be successful. I want you to do this, right? Obviously, there are things that are 0, no pass things, and those should be stated in your manual, right? But as much as possible, we're going to learn before we punish. And again, this should hopefully be obvious, but pay them fairly, right? We're treating them like respected professionals. Obviously, if you have a pay scale that goes by education, time that they've worked, if they've been back for 5 years versus a new person, great. Lay that out, make sure people know that that's the pay scale, but we're not going to just pay teens less because they're teens. And that's a hard one in our field, I feel like. But they should be paid on the same matrix that your other employees are paid on. I'm going to pause, take a drink. Any questions? All right. Excuse me. Indicator F, program budget is tied to their program goals. There's that word again, and supported by your solid financial management. All right. Darn goals and mission. Right? Your budget matters. I don't think anyone in this field is like, we don't have a budget. So, right? But your budget matters because it provides the financial information to support your planning, right? Realistic and clear accountability. We've said this kind of throughout so far today's training. You have to know who's responsible for what, and it has to be realistic, has to be transparent, has to be clear. That just makes everyone's job down the line a lot easier. Budgets, I'm going to throw this out there, and some of you might go, budgets should not be secret. They shouldn't. People should know what the budget is. Because financial decisions rely on good information. And that information is going to come from the program itself, right? Because you have to understand the real costs of your program to make decisions, right? You can't do contracts and fundraising or program expansions or modifications unless you know what the real cost is of your program. If you don't know what your program costs, ask. Ask Sheena. Sorry, she just threw Sheena under the bus. No, I'm sure you guys do. Reba, if you have programs that don't know how much they cost, help them figure that out. Super important.
We're working on that.
Okay. I was like, get that budget planning handbook out. Make the responsible for financial decisions shared through your program, right? Have a staff meeting about budget. Doesn't mean that they get to decide everything, because a lot of times it will fall on management and leadership, right? But they should know what the budget is, and they should know why we can't buy new STEM equipment this year or the rent went up. It's not a burden, it's just the real cost, right? This shouldn't be like weighing on their shoulders, but it should be like, this is the real cost of our program, and these are why decisions are made the way they're made. They may not know. And then that can breed resentment, and we don't want that, right? We want open communication with our staff. There you go. Frequent communication, good information, and appropriate authority. I mean, this doesn't mean that your summer high school staff gets to decide how much they spend on markers, right? But they should know the real costs of what the markers are, and right, why the decision was made to go with generic instead of Crayola. That's all I'm saying. Encourage everyone on staff to develop that financial literacy. They should be able to look at a financial report. They should be allowed to ask questions about the budget, and learn the terminology, you know, whether you are under budget, over budget, you're in the red, whatever terminology your program uses, your staff should know, right? Don't leave them confused. Your program is expected, we expect it, your families expect it, your community partners expect you to have a high standard of integrity and honesty in all your financial activities. So the more transparent your budget is, the more you share with people, right, the higher the honesty integrity goes. And again, right, your policies, your job descriptions, what your internal controls, that maintains your integrity, but they're built, and here's those words again, on your mission and your values and your leadership, right? Your budget has to match those. Okay. I should go back. Anyone have questions about budget and sharing budget with staff? Does that scare anyone? Are we okay? I'm gonna assume yes. We'll keep going. We have one more we gotta go through. So this is our data or data, whichever you say. Your program has to have a system for collecting and evaluating data to support the program's continuous growth and improvement, right? Leveraging good data can help your program stay running with limited resources, or even better, make impactful changes in the future, right? You all have limited resources. I'm gonna guess that. I bet I'm pretty safe in guessing that you all have limited resources. So to best use your resources, you have to have good data supporting your decisions, right? If anyone in here has unlimited data, please, or data budgets, let us know so we can follow your lead. So start with a program data audit. Look at everything you're collecting. You're probably collecting way more data than you thought you were. If you keep grantee profiles, if you keep donor information with giving histories, if you take parent or youth surveys, you do grant reports, interviews, you've collected stories from your staff or your parents, you may have an annual report that you use, right? You're probably keeping data on all the kids that come into your program, your daily attendance, different activities. I mean, you guys probably collect way more data than you think you collect. What are you actually using though? Right? Look at all that data. Are you using it? If it's being used, what ways and for what purpose are you using it? Does it go out in a newsletter? Is it part of your grant reporting? Does it go back out to your families or youth? And then are you collecting the right data? If you want to assess your program's progress and your failures, if you want to look at the stakeholders' needs, what are your community needs, your family needs, your youth needs? And then can you communicate those findings back out as part of your strategic plan or your goal writing? Right, look at that data and make sure it's going to the places you want it to go. And then get rid of and eject anything that you're not collecting that's useful, or that anything you're collecting that isn't useful. Get rid of that. Stop collecting it. Right? If you're not using it, why don't do it? So you want to aim to collect data that helps you learn what is working and what is not working so your program can take action and improve, right? But I want to make sure you're collecting the data that is good as well, right? Toot your horns, you guys. This is stuff I'm doing really awesome. We need help with these things, right? What are your on the ground needs, right? So that's your youth and your families or your community. If your community is struggling, right, you might have to update your goals, or like Anna or Ion put out a COVID survey, right? Because we knew that there were needs that needed to be met that were different than just a few months ago, right? So illustrate your unique contributions to meeting the challenge that your program sets out to address, right? So if you're rural, or you're trying to address girls in STEM, or whatever that goals and needs that you put into your mission, right? You want to make sure that you're illustrating that you're doing that, right? That your contribution to whatever that goal is working. And if it's not, why not? And how do you update and change your plan? Or as Anna said, pivot. And you can use that to communicate your impact to diverse audiences, right? Because you're collecting diverse information. You should be collecting that youth and parents and stakeholder and community information. You should be able to give information back out to those groups. And they're going to be different. You know, parents want to know something probably different than a community grantor, which is probably different than what your youth want to know. So just make sure that you're hitting all of those things. And again, transparency, it goes back out, it's posted, it's available, use it. Hey, guess what? The building blocks are a great source of data. I gotta put this plug in here for us, right? Because why are you sitting here? Use the building blocks as a good source of data for you to collect. The self-assessment is data right there, right? You can take that back to your parents. That first one that we showed earlier that you go through, that's a fantastic data point to send back out to your parents and your stakeholders and your funders. This is what we're doing well. This is where we need help, right? Then we have a longer self-assessment reflection. It's like a 2-pager spread with a whole bunch of questions. Again, that's all data that you can share out. And then we even tell you how to use that, right? You're looking at that continuous quality improvement steps, and that helps you collect the data, make decisions, and then plan for your program. All good information that you can share back out, right? So please, please go through that information. Yes. All right. Anna says, we often share the budget with our board in a redacted format with categories. They value that because it gives a broad picture and doesn't get into the weeds of each item. Right, but it's transparent. That's what I like about it. And oh, was it school board? Someone just put out a transparent budget. Oh, the money for the COVID relief went out as a transparent budget so that every dime can be seen by the public as to where they're spending COVID money in the state of Idaho. So check that out. Anyone have questions? We have like 6 minutes. Now's the time to ask. We do have lots of resources online. If you haven't visited our website, please, please go to idahooutof-school.org/building-block-resources, or if you're in the tab of quality, there's a resource, you can click resources there. Oh, there you go. And you'll find lots of guides and handbooks and trainings and other things that you can take under each of the building blocks. We're going to put some more Y for Y resources in. If you have any resources that you use, a parent handbook that you really like, I can throw that up. If you have an example of an employee manual, we can put that up. If there's any resources that you see missing that you need or want, please, please let me know. I will help you find it or help you create it at any time. So our next web workshop is Building Block 7, which is the youth safety and wellness. So we're going to talk about more about a lot of the things that need to go into your plans and how to keep youth safe, healthy, and active. We'll cover that topic, and that is July 30th, same bat time, same bat channel. So here at 10 a.m., please register. You can register on our website. We'll stop. If no one has questions, I will grant back your 5 minutes to you. But if anyone has questions, please, please ask. Is everyone okay so far with COVID? And I heard maybe there was some stuff that maybe you're looking for. You know what? I am going to show you real quick. If you guys go up here, probably some of you did not work on behavior plans. So I'm going to hit this real quick and just show you, since that's probably a confusing thing. Right, so if I follow along, we went to events, Behavior Management Institute. If you scroll down to these out of school positive behavior examples, there's a behavior matrix in here you guys can look at. Which is really, really helpful. Should go into all of your employee handbooks and probably go into your parent handbooks and when you meet with kids, right? So if you have these program rules, we all have seen the posters usually in schools or up in the hallways. It says be respectful, you know, we're Puma Pride respectful, right? And responsible and safe. But then what does that look like in your program? So if we're respectful and we're during an activity, we're doing our STEM activity, right? We're following directions, our hands and feet are to ourselves, we'd have our cell phones in our backpack, right? And these are easy to, and what I'm working on for you guys is putting COVID rules, right? Being respectful means we wear a mask, if that's a program rule for you. Or not only our hand and feet body to ourselves, but we are sitting 6 feet apart, right? So you can add those in here as needed. And here's that continuum of consequences, because kids are really good about pushing buttons. And right, they're gonna know. So if your staff agrees on these, right, so that one person's not overreacting to a minor thing and another person's underreacting to what is probably a major thing, right? If we can get staff on board. So there's those example expectations, and then junk or minor stuff that you can throw out or is like, right, you can ignore or just kind of quickly remind. So they're out of their assigned area, they're touching kids, right? Whatever it is, there's that consequence. And same with major or even illegal behavior and what happens. So I would write those out, make those part of your policy manuals. And again, please let me know if I can help you with these. I'm trying to work on a summer one for summer programming that is like outdoors all day. What does this look like? And then also working on one with some COVID examples, as we don't know what school or programming will look like as we go into the fall. But I've heard from most school districts that they will include the, increased hand washing, possibly masks, temperature taking, and certainly the social distancing will probably continue, and we'll throw those into the behavior matrix as well. Oh, where can we find these examples again? Oh, okay, you found it. But just in case anyone else did, so if you're on our website, idahooutofschool.org, ignore the top, I'm in a page builder, but you go across to events. I know it's in a weird spot, but this is part of our Behavior Management Institute currently. So you're gonna click on that, it'll take you to this page, and if you scroll down, you'll see these examples and templates, right? There's a lot of good behavior information there, but just please remember to put them in your policy manuals. Again, don't make these secret. They should be shared with your employees and hopefully made with your employees if you can. Any other questions? Oh, I'll show you while we're here, just for a minute. If you go to quality, right, here's where you find the building blocks if you need them. So there's the guide. Oh, there's the guide. You can print it as many times as you want. If you go under resources, this is where you'll find all the different building blocks and their resources built out, right? So there's organized. So there's some trainings in here if you need financial, coaching conversations. Right, here's principles and practices for nonprofits. There's parent manuals, policy and procedure manuals, employee handbooks. There's all kinds of good examples for you to work off of. There's a policies and procedures activity, right, and some websites that you can look at. And I'm actually going to throw a few more on there that I found recently, so that'll get updated a little bit. And Reba, I would tell you that for early childhood, that behavior matrix works just as well, and the continuum of consequences does well. You would just scale it down to early childhood.
I was just looking through that on your website, and I was pretty impressed with it and thought I can use this.
Yes, and please let me know if you have more questions about it. I can walk you through it. I mean, you probably would not do behavior contracts with a 3-year-old. That would not work, right?
Probably not, but
Probably not. And same with like reflections. But the matrix and the consequences would still work for early childhood. All right, Sheena, we'll see you later. Thank you for coming. Anyone else have questions either about behavior or resources or anything we heard in the talk today? Otherwise, I will let us go. We have reached our time. I appreciate you guys all hanging in there with me.
thank you so much.